Hello and welcome back to the second edition, officially, of Damo's Team Talk, where we go through in our little separate side episodes, separate to, of course, our weekly episodes, and delve into our own individual teams, run through our trade strategies and what we're thinking from week to week. So hopefully to give you guys, first and foremost, a bit of an insight into putting into practice, I guess, what we preach in each of the weekly episodes, running through trade scenarios, how best to utilize DPP switches, and the like. So hopefully by putting into practice what we're preaching, it'll help you guys out down the line in applying similar strategies to your own team. But before we delve into things, just want to beg of you, if you're watching this now, if you can do me one solid favor, and that is just down below. I think it's somewhere down here. I don't know where it is going to be, that person, and point down to wherever the button is. I think it's somewhere over here potentially. Below the video, it says there's a little button there and it says subscribe. And if you can subscribe, if you haven't done so already, I will, if I wasn't sitting down, I'd get down on both knees and beg of you to do so. And thank you, and probably kiss your feet as well, which is probably a little bit too weird. But nonetheless, if you can do that, if you can do us a solid and subscribe to our channel, we would be very much in debt to you. Just punching across and kind of lifting the curtain on all things SuperCoach Edge on YouTube. You'll be able to see here, let me just flick across, there we go. So you'll see here the watch time from subscribers, which is sort of one of the analytics that we get in the background. And you'll see there 64.9% of people that consume our content, obviously like it, they come back for more, haven't subscribed. But 35.1% of you absolute champions already have. So if you're in that 64.9% that have yet to subscribe, if you enjoy our content, if you come back for more, if you enjoy the entertainment, the numbers, the data that we throw your way, if you can do us a solid in return for all of that, if you can do that, awesome. And I guess the one thing we're trying to do here is, I guess, grow the channel. We've set ourselves a goal to hit the 1K mark, at least by the end of the season. But if we can do it as quick as possible, even better. At the moment, I think we sit around 689, I think, at last check. And we got a few subscribers off the back of Damo's Team Talk last week as well. So thank you to those absolute legends that did so. But yeah, if you can help us on our endeavor to hit the 1K mark, that would be absolutely fantastic. Virtually what it does is it helps us not only spread the word of SuperCoach Edge, gives us more exposure and works in with the YouTube algorithm, as they call it, the robot behind the scenes, the software that dictates whether or not our content is seen alongside others. So I guess by subscribing, you're helping us in terms of that. And then once we hit the 1K subscriber mark, it means also that we can monetize our content. But ideally, we'd love to just be able to, I guess, use the revenue that we're getting from YouTube to give back and run some more cash leagues and create some more merch and the like that. So all we're asking is if you can help subscribe, do so. You're a legend, you're a gun, you're a primo, you're a keeper. So let's leave it at that. So thanks if you can. Enough of that. So let's get into my team, chatting about all things SuperCoach. So flick across to this, and that's how I came out of round 4. I scored 2,115. By the end of the round, I think I was relatively happy with it. I thought I was going to climb in rank. It was above par from what I knew, and I did, but wasn't as high a climb as what I was hoping. So I did end up climbing 4,082, and now I'm ranked overall 32,817. So not the best. I mean, at this stage, comparing it to last year, I think I was in the top 10K and or thereabouts and making a bit of headway, but it's been slow going, and I think a lot of that is due to a lot of people, first and foremost, having very similar teams. So with little difference between everyone's teams, it means that any sort of foothold that you're getting over another team in terms of points isn't such a big margin as what it could be. So there's that, and then there's also the fact that I think captaincy, options, I guess, is probably the one difference. And the selections of the like, if you've selected Oliver over Laird, for example, you've already got, I think it's around about 150 points, rough guess, or 100 points advantage on those that selected Laird. So it's that sort of difference at the moment. Like teams are so similar, and literally it's captaincy options and choosing between one or two players that's really separating the competition. So if you are in my position and you feel like you're languishing behind a bit, don't stress, because as the weeks go on and as people trade different players in, make different combinations, it is going to separate the pack. So keep your head in the game, head down, bum up, and you'll end up making some headway. So come along for the ride with me. And geez, I feel like I'm Brett Kirk now, but come along for the ride, and hopefully together we can climb the ranks. So let's do it. Let's get into my team. So this is how it looks at the moment. You'll notice there as well a big red cross alongside Will Day, who has been at the moment suspended for 2 weeks. Hawthorn, thank the Lord, are actually contesting it because it's an absolute farce that he's received 2 weeks. I think seeing it, watching the game live, I thought, yes, a week is probably fair. Close landed on his face. It was unfortunate his legs got tangled up in Will Day's legs as well. And they both fell forward and splat. That's kind of what happened. But I think 2 weeks, especially viewed alongside Gary Rowan, is an absolute farce. Yeah, so dumb. Anyway, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but that's kind of a taste of what I think of that. Even if I wasn't an owner, I think 2 weeks is just absolutely farcical. But anyway, that's that. So that's the reason why he's got the red cross alongside his name. But having said that, he was my trade-in last week, as you would have watched if you watched my Damo's team talk last week. I traded Ridley today and banked about 90k odd. And then the other trade was trading Doherty, which we'll get into shortly. I traded him to LDU and switched Jimby back into defence, as you'll see there. So it was a bit of a blessing in disguise. I thought it was a little bit of a risk because I still viewed Doherty as a keeper. But as we know now, unfortunately, he's out for the next 4 to 6 weeks with a meniscus tear. So unfortunate for owners and unfortunate for Doc as well. And being a Carlton man myself, just really, it's really painful to see whenever Doherty gets injured, especially because he's been through so much and he's had a couple of knee recos and obviously the cancer battle that he's been through twice over as well. It's it's just really unfair. But that was kind of the trade that I was hanging my hat on, and I thought maybe it's a bit of a risk, but I had to get LDU in. And even though he scored 102, mindful of the fact that there was a little bit of attention that was put into him. There was Hewitt, there was Curnow, there was Chera, there was Cripps, all running through him at different stages of the game. And I think to score 102, if that is his actual floor, if that's sort of the minimum of what he's going to score, gee whiz, I'm pretty happy with that. So I see him 100% as a top 8 scoring midfielder come the end of the season. So that's the reason why I prioritised him, because he hadn't yet changed in price. So that is a big tick, obviously. And yeah, Ridley down to Will Day. Even though Day's going to be out at least for next week, I'm happy with the trade because, again, that was a risk trading down from Ridley down to virtually maybe someone that is similar to him. Could be a false mid-pricer, but I think from what I'd seen already, the CBAs that he was getting in the Hawks lineup was super pleasing. So very happy with that. Watch the game, and he's an absolute beast, tackling machine. Plays outside, inside. He's got it all, really. I'm a big fan of him. Big rap. Love the cut of his jib, to quote The Simpsons. Outside of that, Nicky Dacos, I was close to VCing him last week. Didn't do it. Kicked myself. So ended up having to VC Laird. Not the end of the world, because then I put the C on Bont. He was on track, I think, for half-time at around about 140, 150. Of course, he was bevoed, as Bevo always loves to do. He was thrown forward at a couple of stages there, and then finally Bevo came to his senses, threw him back in the middle. Funny that, and he actually scored well. Outside of that, Setters, again, made a bit of bank, which was good to see. He's done his role for me now, and he's central as a bit of a spoiler for me this week in terms of trades. Gone up 37.7k on the weekend and a total of 95.8k. So super happy with that. Hopper is one that I'm a little bit concerned about, but by the same token, I'm not too worried about, because I am hoping to upgrade him in the coming week or two. So if he's scoring around about 75, makes it easier for me to cull him, because if he's scoring well enough, makes it hard for me to obviously get rid of him and upgrade him and look elsewhere. Ashcroft, good as usual, very solid. Mackenzie's dropped off a little bit, and I've noticed that a lot of people are starting to trade him now. He's actually the third most traded out player. which I find surprising, especially in context of Will Day being suspended. You'll see, and if you haven't used this website before, please do yourselves a favour. Absolute goldmine of stats, content, anything that you need in terms of getting a further insight into SuperCoach. So just having a look at CBAs with the Hawks, you'll notice with Mackenzie, unfortunately, yes, he has fallen off the wagon a smidge. He's actually gone down week on week. As you'll see there, started 52% down to 25%, 17% to 7% on the weekend. But without Will Day there, who had a whopping 82%, that's obviously going to have to be distributed elsewhere. And he's going to get a bulk of that going by that first week when Will Day was down to 26% CBAs and he was playing predominantly sort of more off halfback. So for those people trading him, I would keep that in mind because it's kind of a blessing in disguise with Will Day not being there. It's going to help Mackenzie immensely, and being around the ball, getting CBAs, he's going to be able to lift his scoring potential and ceiling overall, and floor as well, mind you. So for those people trading him, I'd be thinking of that first and foremost, and probably holding off. His break-even's only 13. I think he can smash that quite easily. And his scoring actually hasn't been too bad. He's been sort of up and down, yo-yoing. As you can see there, every second week he scored well. The first week and then the third week, and then hopefully by that trend, the fifth week, round 5, this weekend, he's actually going to score well. So let's see if the trend continues, but hopefully it does for myself, because I'm not trading him out. He's still got a fair bit of cash to make and some decent enough scores to, or half decent, to punch out. Outside of that, Tom Green, keeper, hands down. Dacos, keeper. Will Day, he's going to be a keeper. I'm going to hold him. Jinby, I don't know if anyone's seen doing the rounds on Twitter. Someone actually they slid into the DMs of Ginby and they're asking him whether or not he's going to play this weekend. There's been a little bit of a rumour that he may be rested, but he replied back and said, "Nah, I'm playing, mate. All the best." And the guy that messaged him wished him well for Easter, so and he was thankful of that. So I mean, that's one way to slide into DMs. Maybe just butter them up a bit and ask them, "Are you playing the weekend? What are you doing?" So I found that quite funny. McKenna scored quite well, 86. Liam Jones is a little bit of a problem now because his break even is virtually on par. He's just off by 1 point in terms of sort of what his projected is, and in terms of his average score. So his average is at 48.5, not good enough as a mid-pricer, that awkward price that he is, and we've all got him to make a bit of bank and score half decently whilst on field, and he's doing none of those at the moment. So he still can make a little bit of money, but he needs a score like a 76 on the weekend to punch out, to really sort of kickstart his cash gen. But you can see there, like, even though his break-even's 36, SuperCoach Plus has him projected for a 37, and it's only going to give him $400. So I am also looking at trading him potentially this week. I was able to loop on one of these scores. With Constable, of course, not playing on the weekend. Wilmot scored 50, and I was actually going to back in Cowan, but I was at the Carlton North game, of course, and completely forgot about it and had to lock in Wilmot's score, and thankfully only missed out on 1 point, so it could have been much worse. In terms of other cash cows, Baker, yeah, I mean, their scores are kind of not quite good enough. Just thankfully I'm not playing them on field, which would hurt more. But Philippou scored half decently, went up to 231 200s, appreciated in price by 23.5k. Here's another one that I'm potentially thinking of cashing in, and I'll delve into very shortly as to what my trade plans are, because I know a lot of people out there are tuning in for that, the juiciest part of the chat. Sean Darcy, again, super happy that I stuck with him, 125. He is starting to purr again, or Hodor-doring again, as we call him, good old Hodor, the big oaf. Ron Marshall, a little bit disappointing on the weekend, coming up against a debutant in Moyle at the Suns. Obviously, Witts was arrested with soreness, but he was subbed off, Marshall, for a 96, so it could have been much more than that. But this week, you'll notice that he, alongside here, he's playing the Pies on the right-hand side, you can see there. And the Pies, of course, don't have a ruckman. So hopefully that equates to him having a big game. So for those people trading him out, again, much like Mackenzie, it comes down to matchups. You've got to keep that in mind from week to week, or guys that are going out of the team, that may elevate their own role, that sort of stuff. So keep that in mind, and I would definitely not be trading Marshall at the moment. In the forward line, I mean, again, the most solid part of my team every single week, I think now. So looking forward to swinging these blokes back into defence as well when the DBP eligibility comes into effect. And then Chandler's making bulk coin again and justifying me prioritising getting him in that week a couple of weeks ago. 46k he's gone up, 82.9k, so he's already gone up 130, almost 130k over the course of the past 2 weeks. So absolutely insane. And he's got more bank to make as well, believe it or not. Break even, -4. And he is projected to go up another 30.9k. So for anyone that missed out on him, you're going to be kicking yourself. And that's the reason why I was big on, you would have heard in our weekly podcast why Liam and I were so big on him, because he is central to generating that cash needed to upgrade to primos. And that's pretty much, and Fergus Green, I should say as well, he was going into the round on the weekend. Fergus Green, I was actually banking on him not sort of going too far above his break even, and he was going to be a trade candidate this week, potentially to JVR, but he smashed out at 73 and kickstarted his cash generation again, and his break even's -15. So he already went up 28k, 39k in the weekend, and projected to go up 28.4k and 19.6 over the next couple of weeks. With his average score 51.5, so the SuperCoach Plus have him averaging a touch below that, and that's what we're expecting for him to make another 40, almost 40k or thereabouts, almost 50k actually. He's a touch under 50k, so that'll be super handy, and then we'll be able to cash him in hopefully to a rookie that is on the horizon. But enough with that. That's kind of where I'm at. That's the way the team looks, how it performed. And probably no surprise as to who I'm targeting this week. Spoke of him in our main episode this week, and it is Tom Stewart. And that was part of the reason why I banked cash from the downgrade of Ridley today, which was around about 90k. I had about 60 odd k in the bank already. And then the downgrade of, a slight downgrade, I think it was, at that stage anyway, of Doherty to LDU. So, that was kind of my plans, bank a bit of cash because I was eyeing off Stewart this week. And again, that sort of goes back to what Liam and I are always harping on about. Don't trade for that current week. Trade for plans and have in effect plans for the next week and even 2 weeks down the track. Eye off guys that you know are going to be dropping in price in terms of fallen premiums. I identified Stewart as a lot of other people would have a couple of weeks back and knew this was going to be a week where I could bring him in. So I've planned for that in loosening up a bit of coin in my bank, where all I need to do is find a player to trade straight to Tom Stewart. If need be, I could do another downgrade for a little bit of cash, but I'm kind of putting myself in a bit of, a routine now where I'm downgrading, upgrading every single week. And you'll notice as well that I've only used the one boost, and I'm considering using another boost this week to help generate cash that I can put towards bringing in a second Primo upgrade next week. So again, thinking ahead, trying to generate coin, trying to loosen a bit of cash where I can, but don't be too hasty as well. Don't get rid of cash cows that are going to be making more coin. Like, Fergus Green, as I said about him, he's kickstarted his cash generation, -15. He's going to make us close to 50k over the next couple of weeks. So to get rid of him now would be very, very stupid. Same with Chandler. Elwyn Davey, again, 23.2k. Oscar Baker, even though he's not... Look, these guys aren't scoring too well. Their break-even's still in the negative or low enough for them. In the case of potentially Philippou, where they could still make us cash, especially off the back of a big week, as we saw with Fergus Green as a classic example. So all these guys still have negative break-evens or low enough for them to make some coin over the next couple of weeks at the very least. So that's kind of my thinking. First and foremost, the money that I've got in the bank, how do I get in Tom Stewart? So what I'm going to be doing is, and this is kind of the plans that I have for Setterfield as well, and what I spoke of last week and what I spoke of in our main episodes over the past few rounds. I brought him in with the sole intention not to be a keeper, but to continue on round about, the 90 to 100 average to make enough cash for me to then use him as a stepping stone to a fallen premium. So he's already made, what's that? Almost 100K. So 90, what is it, 96 or whatever it is, he's made at the moment. So he's done well. He's done well for me, and I think you can probably afford to hold him a little bit longer. Sorry, apologies, I'm flicking back and forth, but I'm sort of in multiple minds. But his break-even's 85. He could still crush that. His average is 103.8. Yes, it has been elevated by that 147, which is kind of stands out like dog's balls there, but he is one that you can keep a hold of, even though the fact that the Dons face Melbourne. So it's going to be a tough matchup. May play on Clary actually as well. So hopefully he does well against him. But again, he is my stepping stone. I could stick with him, but if I wasn't to use him as a stepping stone, it'd be awfully hard for me to bring in Tom Stewart. I would need to do another downgrade and then upgrade, say, a Hopper, who's a little bit cheaper. Jones is he's too low in price. McKenna too low in price. And all these other guys are keepers or guys that still have cash to make. So he is the guy that I've identified as that stepping stone that is right for the bit of fruit that's ripened, and he's right for the picking. So I'm going to be using him first and foremost as my core trading plan. And you'll see that I've got 598.8k, and I'll switch either Jinby or Constable, doesn't really matter. Or I can't switch all day yet because he hasn't got DPP. But swinging either of these guys in, I can still swing them around. You can see there. They'll still have the mid defensive eligibility if I wanted to do a little bit of a switch ahead of the round. But anyway, so Will Setterfield, done that switch now, and now I can target, so Tom Stewart. I've left 26k in the bank as well, complete that trade, confirm. And that gives me a primo in defense that I've been crying out for as well. I mean, you look at my team, and it's got a strong core four here in the midfield, mid-pricer, and rookies. He was initially a keeper. Jury's still out on him, and likewise Marshall as well, but we're going to keep them. We're going to treat them as keepers for now. Non-issue, scoring well enough. And then the forward line has been the best performing of the year so far, consistently week on week. So this is the problem area, and you'll see there I've only got one keeper in Dacos. I didn't have another keeper. Like Will Day, I guess you can count if you're counting him as a keeper, but again, I'm still not putting him in that bracket as yet. But I'm going to treat him as such at the moment. But yeah, Tom Stewart really does help shore up that defence, which is looking quite thin at the moment, especially relying on the likes of Jones. I don't mind relying on Jinby, even though we had a down week. It's offset by the fact that vast majority of the competition already own him, and the vast majority of the competition are fielding him as well. So that negates any low score that he has, offsets that, non-issue. McKenna scoring well enough, so that's kind of the problem area here. By bringing in Stewart, it means I've got two solid keepers, a potential keeper in Will Day, and then some rookies to round it out. And that's kind of where I stand with that, 26k. My other thinking, like I was saying earlier, is I want to generate some cash for the weeks ahead. And it's something that you don't have to do. I mean, I could leave it as is. I could maybe stick with Jones if I wanted to. I could swing Jinby into the midfield, put Constable there, and then, like on the weekend, screen Cowan score. He's playing first up against the Crows. And put the emergency on him. If he doesn't score well enough, put Wilmot on. Or alternatively, keep Jinby there and then do the same sort of thing with Constable here and screen the scores of these guys, whoever plays first. And then, if they don't score well enough, then swing them on field and vice versa. So that's that. But you would have heard Liam and I discuss on the podcast a diamond in the rough, someone that surprisingly a lot of people are actually jumping on, more so than what I thought, enough to be in the top 5 traded in players, and it is Samson Ryan. Now, you would have heard what's his name? Toby Nankervis. Called him Tom Nankervis for some reason, has changed his name. But Samson Ryan, he is literally the only backup ruck that's healthy for Richmond. What's his name? Ivan Soldo. He is still injured out with plantar fasciitis or something, whatever it's called, issue with his foot. He's probably about 2 weeks away from what I've read, which means that Samson Ryan has at least 2 weeks for him to have the sole ruck. And we know, we've seen in recent seasons how guys can perform when they step into that role. Even on the weekend, Moyle for the Suns, he ended up scoring, I think it was a touch into 70 by being the main ruck across the course of the game. And I mean, the break even here of Samson Ryan is 19, but if he was to have a score of a 70 odd, that would really punch down his break even and kickstart his cash generation here, which is what we're banking on. SuperCoach Plus only have him scoring a 34, but that's on the basis that he's going to be playing as a key forward, which is what he has been doing with a bit of pinch hitting in the ruck from time to time. And mind you, I mean, going back to DFS Australia here, and this is how good it is. You can look at ruck contests. Amazing site. So Toby Nankervis has had the absolute lion's share of the ruck. No surprise there. But surprisingly, Samson Ryan actually hasn't been doing too bad. He's had 16%, 15% and 21% CBAs in the ruck. So that's going to bump straight up to what good old Tobes was having as R1. So, and almost I'm expecting scores of around about the 70-odd mark, similar to, I guess what Moyle was scoring as the sole ruck for the Suns. So if he could do that, that'll, again, as I said, push down his break-even, kickstart that cash generation, and we can ride him as a bit of a cash cow, because at the moment, you'll be able to see there's, apart from JVR, Jacob Van Ruin, as the sort of bottom-priced rookie, there is no one on the horizon at the moment. So we almost need to be making these semi-risky moves in order to, look at alternatives to traditional cash cows. And it's that sort of season, unfortunately, but you got to get creative, got to think outside the box. And even though he is a bit of an awkward price at 156.5k, just a reminder, he's actually cheaper than what Sheasel was when he started, which was around about 198 from memory. So by that token, knowing the role that he's going to have over the short term, and I think beyond that, when Soldo comes back, Nankervis is going to be out for about, I think it's medium to long term, so it could be at least 6+, 4+ minimum weeks out. Soldo comes back. If Samson Ryan's still smashing it, there could be a chance that they actually share the ruck 50-50 or 60-40 in favour of Samson Ryan, or at the very least, Samson Ryan's going to go back to what role he had when Nankervis was taking the lion's share of the ruck. So really bullish on Samson Ryan, and there's a reason there that he's in the top 5. So if you're seeing that and you're thinking, why are people going for him? That's the reason why. The main worry I have about Jacob Van Ruin, which I'll touch on now, is it's come out today, which is the 12th of April. Goodwin said that Ben Brown is actually declared fit from his back injury and will make his return. We have Gawn as well, who is on the horizon. He's going to return within the next 1 to 2 weeks from his injury, which again spells trouble for those people who have Grundy. Going to eat into, obviously, his ruck time. But outside of all that, for JVR, we have Gawn who's played predominantly out forward when he's been fit this season. And then we've had Ben Brown, who's had some injury issues. And then outside of that, we've had Tom McDonald as well, who has been a little bit of a whipping boy and scapegoat for the Ds, has been dropped, kicked 4 goals on the weekend, mind you. So if he does that again, it's going to be hard to drop him beyond that, especially if Ben Brown is in. So it's going to be very interesting seeing the team sheets this week. I have a feeling they're going to play Jacob Van Ruin and maybe give Ben Brown an extra week. But I think once Gawn returns, once Brown returns, someone has to make way. And it's either Tom McDonald or it's going to be Jacob Van Ruin. Unless they get rid of a defender like a Petty or someone and restructure. But I can't really see them doing that, ruining their defensive structure. So I think Jacob Van Ruin is unfortunately going to be in the firing line as much as, I like the look of him. I would love to get him in. But there's another reason why I can't also, aside from all this, but I think that uncertainty around his role, longer term, I think short term, your security should be fine, but longer term, I think, you don't want to be having a guy left on your bench that not knowing whether or not he's going to come back. I think he will play at the very least off and on if he does get omitted. So there is sort of alleviate some of that worry. But for me personally, because I am targeting Samson Ryan, I can't obviously get rid of Chandler. He's got cash to make. Fergus Green kickstarted his cash gen, got cash to make. So the only way to get Samson Ryan is to switch one of these guys with DPP at midfield eligibility into the midfield and then bring in Samson Ryan. The other good thing about Samson Ryan, just quickly as well, and it probably speaks for itself, is the fact that he is a ruck forward. And we know how much carnage we've had in the rucks this season thus far. So just to it gives you that assurance or insurance from week to week. If Darcy goes down for a week, knock on wood. If Marshall goes down for a week, knock on wood. It means that I've got Samson Ryan that I can swing from the forward line into the rucks via Madden and provide a little bit of cover there. Which, I mean, for those people that have Jared Witts, for example, and reports are he's not going to take his spot in the Suns lineup again this week for 2 consecutive weeks. If they own someone like a Samson Ryan, that would definitely help them out. So that's something that adds a little bit of extra string to the bow of bringing in Samson Ryan. Apart from the fact I'm going to be using him as a bit of a cash cow, a bit of a, ride the cash wave. He provides a little bit of insurance there off the bench. But then, because I'm going back to that point, because I'm going for Ryan, there's no other way for me to get JVR, Jacob Van Ruin, in my team unless I pull that same move and switch like a Davey and a Philippou into the midfield. Davey and a Philippou into the forward line, and then switch like a Taranto and Rosie, for example, into the midfield, which then means I'm benching like 2 of these guys, which is fine, but it's not ideal. It's not ideal. I don't want to disrupt the structure of my forward line. And it does mean that I would have to play a Chandler and potentially a Samson Ryan or a JVR, which I'm not too confident at the moment. I'm probably more confident just speaking to Mackenzie and what I said about earlier. Without Will Day being there, I see his scoring ceiling being elevated, so I'd much prefer to play him. And I like the flexibility of having that loophole option there if Constable isn't selected this week, to use him to loophole in the best scorer out of whoever these guys are that I put the emergency on. But that's kind of where I'm at. And in terms of getting in Samson Ryan, the only way I can do it, all these guys here have cash to make, apart from Philippou. He's got the highest break even with 20. Even though he still has a projected rise of 17k this weekend if he scores 58, which I can see him easily doing, going on previous rounds. And beyond that, he's got probably another 25k. So he could go up another 30k minimum, and even then some as well. But you'll see that if he maintains this average of 58 over these weeks, it does hold his cash generation a little bit, just because it was at a higher price point. But again, as I've said ad nauseum so far, all he needs is to have a big breakout game, scoring a 76 like he did in round 1, and really kickstart that cash generation again. But I need to cull someone in order to bring Samson Ryan in. I can see over the longer term Samson Ryan generating more cash compared to Philippou. So this is kind of what you have to kind of do, is you jump off one train that's sort of coming to a halt, cash cow train that's sort of coming up to the station, jump off that, and then jump on the Samson Ryan train that's, about to take off again. So that's kind of the way you have to work cash cows, especially because, as I was saying, there aren't traditional cash cows on the horizon that are looking really good. JVR scored well, but again, job security worries me. So, unfortunately, it looks as though Philippou is going to be that scapegoat. And it doesn't matter any of these guys as to who I switch into the midfield. They're going to be on field no matter what. So let's just switch Goulden into it. He's playing in the midfield for the Swans. Let's put him in my midfield in SuperCoach. So that's that. And then I will be searching for Samson Ryan. There he is. And you'll see there, that gives me 100.7k. So super handy. Again, puts me in a similar position to what I was in this week. I'm 50k off what I had heading into this week. But it does allow me, again, I can do another downgrade next week potentially, and then bring in another fallen primo. I'll touch on before I wrap up quickly, because I'm mindful I've just ticked over the half an hour mark as well, and don't want to keep these too. I want to keep these a little bit shorter and not too long, because I do have a couple of questions that you guys have sent in as well, in that I got to know segment that we normally have in our week to week big normal episodes. So in terms of what I'm looking to do, as I said, I could potentially use a boost. The main reason I'd be using that is to get rid of Liam Jones. And I mean, I've got 100k. It's not going to afford me too much. It's going to give me, let's see what it gives me, 361.3k. And there aren't really any players in that price range, which, if we filter, let's go 370. In this price range, that stand out too much in terms of, I guess, keepers. There aren't any keepers in this price range. It probably goes without saying. But in terms of guys that you could jump on as riding the cash wave, I wouldn't be Jack Buckley because he's already made 125k. I've missed that train there. Even though his break-even still 10, he's a key position player. I have no idea how he's scoring this well, and it's shitting me. He's going really well. To the credit of those people who own him, but yeah, he's only going to go up another 40k or thereabouts, so isn't enough to justify a trade of him in. Michelini is one that I've got my eye on. His break-even's negative 45, even though he's already gone up 108.9k and 57k on the weekend. He's going to go up at least another 80k if he can score an average of 68 over the next couple of weeks. He scored pretty well in his past 2 rounds, as you can see there. And if you can, his average at the moment is 73.8. So it's not out of the realms of possibility for him to score a 68 over the next couple of weeks. And that there is a quick fire, easy way to get 80k in the bank, and make it much easier to bridge the gap and trade up to a fallen premium. So that's kind of my one thought. And the main reason I'd be doing that is, so alternatively, aside from that, I could save the boost and stick with Liam Jones. But the worry there is, I think he faces Port Adelaide this weekend. No guarantee that he's actually going to score half decently. Michelini, you could probably say the same thing for, but he's got a better scoring base as he's shown at the moment. And I guess in lieu of not being able to grab Van Ruin, who's got a negative 71 break even, and he's projected to go up 51.2k, compare them here. He is literally projected to go up. This is a little bit of a handy hint here. But for those of you with Liam Jones, and if you're in my position and you're not going for a JVR, he's got a higher break even, negative 45, Michelini, compared to JVR. But they're both projected to go up 51.2k. So, by bypassing the, I guess, what I'm seeing as the risk with JVR, allows me to go for this guy who has been given massive raps by the Crows coaching staff, and he's going to be in the side for the long term. So his job security is super sound, and his scoring is actually quite good as well. So he is one that I have in mind as a bit of a cash cow on the go. And again, going back to what I was saying, there aren't really any traditional cash cows outside of JVR at the moment, so we've got to be creative. So this is my one ticket potentially to help bridge that gap, which at the moment is quite long. But by using Michelini, it bridges that gap a little bit shorter, so I don't have to fork out as much cash to bring in a fallen premium. So say, for example, I bring in Michelini. 2 weeks' time, he's 327. Go by that notion. And say that he's here, he's gone up to 327. I've got 100k in the bank. Although in saying that, Michelini's going to give me the other benefit as well, slightly. It's going to give me an extra 16k. So say I've got 116k to use in a couple of weeks' time. Okay? And say that, again, Michelini is a bit of a refresher, goes up to 327. 327 plus the, let's say 120. So 327 plus the 120 is what, 447. Do another downgrade, and then by that stage, someone I've got my eye on, and again, this is what I'm doing. I'm planning not just next week, but 2 weeks, in 2 weeks' time. And what I'm actually looking at, and you'll see here, if I just get rid of that filter and go down here to break even, we'll switch this around to the highest break evens, and you'll see there's a couple of names here in defence that are primos, keepers. By the name of Sicily, who scored a 76 on the weekend, went down 27.8k, and he's got a break even of 145 on the weekend. And then we've got another player here, around a similar price point, 576.9, went down 18.6k. He's actually got a higher break even of 154. And these are the sort of guys that I'll be looking to bring in 2 weeks' time. And the reason for that is you'll see, at least next week, was projected to score around about 100 odd. If he can score around about that, he'll go down a further 22.9k to 554. The week after, much achievable break even, much more achievable of 100. Could start going up in price again. But by that stage, he would have already gone down, what's that, 5, 6, 7, almost 70k for the season. And then looking at Sicily, which is kind of like a longer term grind because his break even's 145. Over the next couple of weeks at least, he's projected to go down by 47, 48k or thereabouts, and he'll drop down to 532, which will be almost 90k or thereabouts lower than what his starting price was. So these are the sort of guys that I'll be looking to get in over the next couple of weeks and using potentially Michelini as a bit of a stepping stone. So again, try and have those plans in place. It's well and good as well to say that you've put plans in place, because then there's injuries, there's suspensions, as we see with Will Day here, which can throw things awry. But if everything goes to plan, that's your way to sort of bring in primos ahead of other people that may be struggling for cash, don't have the rookies that you don't have or the cash cows that you don't have, and they're struggling to bridge, as I said, that gap. And if you've bridged that gap, you're already a step ahead of the rest of the competition. So that's pretty much it. So yeah, let's just run by the notion that I'm going for Michelini here. Where's he gone? Mind you, I'm not set on using this boost. So this is the one part of the trade conundrum that I'm unsure of. So let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are. If you think it's a good trade, if you're in a similar position, or if you have any actual questions you want to ask me as well, happy to, next week in Damo's team talk, revert back to the questions that you got here. And if they're still relevant, I'll delve into them. But obviously hit me up on Twitter as well, at DamoJ88 or at SuperCoach _edge, and you can reach us there. But yeah, complete that trade. And this is kind of what my team will look like going into round 5. What I could always do as well, it gives me flexibility. Jimby, as I mentioned earlier, Jimby Constable, I can always leave as is at the moment and put the emergency on Cowan. And if Cowan scores well enough, I'll be like, all right, you know what? I'm going to loop on his score. All I need to do, switch Constable into defense for Jimby, and it means that I can bring in Cowan. Also, the fact that I've got Will Day there, it does mean if he doesn't get off, that's kind of the other thing as well. If he doesn't get off his 2-week ban, if he cops a 1-week ban, hopefully it's that at minimum, maximum, it does mean that I'm going to have to play Jimby into defense. And no matter what, I'm going to have to either take Cowan's score or Wilmot's score by using Will Day as that non-playing player loop. But that's pretty much the way it stands at the moment. It'll leave me with 26 trades, which I was probably hoping for around about 26 to 28 trades in the bank at the moment. But I think out of this week, it really gives me a nice sort of footing again, position to be in, to bring in the next primo and really shore up and strengthen my defense. Because I think with another primo defender like a Sicily or a Sinclair, that's really going to leave me in a good spot. And then I can potentially branch out and look to getting someone like a Cogs, who will be down in price over the next 2 to 3 weeks as well. And I'll look to target as well, as strange as that sounds. But for those of you out there who own him, who are super frustrated, but that's pretty much that. Let me flick across to one of the questions here from Michael Higginson. He asks, he says, enjoying your content, guys. Thank you, Mick. Wondering your thoughts on Pickett. Scored 89, even though he went at 60% efficiency and scored 2 goals, 5, which could be better. Break even -14 and has a favourable draw upcoming. Thinking of downgrading Setterfield to Pickett so I can get Stewart for Doc. Stewart for Doc, yeah, kind of speaks for itself. I think if you're in that position, that's the best value selection to go for. A lot of people are chasing points for Dawson, even though Dawson hasn't gone up too much in price. I can see him actually getting tagged. He got tagged late last year and got quelled quite effectively. So I'd keep that in mind if you're looking at Dawson. But I think in terms of value and points per dollar, when you're talking about it in that sense, the value that Stewart provides is just off the charts. So I'd be going for that 100%. But Pickett in itself, I'm not a massive fan of Pickett, just purely, even though I know he's getting more CBAs, and I know he hasn't gone up in price yet. He scored well enough. I don't see him personally as a keeper. So I wouldn't be bringing Pickett in unless you see him as a keeper. I mean, it's probably a little bit parallels to Will Day here that I've done, but I was kind of a little bit more certain that Will Day could be more of a keeper. I'm very much more uncertain with Keziah Pickett. Good old Cozzy. I can see his role changing from week to week, depending on where they need him. And if you use him as a cash cow, like, he's only going to go up, I reckon, probably around about 60k or thereabouts, maybe 70k, if you can maintain this. But yeah, it's up to you if you want to do it, but I'd probably be looking elsewhere if you can do it. As to who you go for outside of that, it's hard. You could go for someone like a Michelini if, that'll afford you more cash. But again, scoring probably won't be on par with Cozzy Pickett. It's hard to say at the moment. But, in short, I'm not that big on him. But if you want to take the risk, follow your gut because it could play off. Other question we've got here is from Blues Blazers, fellow bagger. He says, who gets a game first, Drury or Chincotta? Need to trade one in. I thought Chincotta was actually going to get a game this week off the back of Doherty getting injured, but wasn't to be. Was an emergency last week and isn't named as an emergency this week, surprisingly. So I don't know, really. It's hard for me to say. Drury, he was kind of one of the talking points over the preseason, was impressing coaches, coaching staff as a whole. We're singing his praises and didn't get a game. So at this stage, who knows? I mean, I wouldn't be selecting players unless they've played a first game anyway. So it's kind of a little bit of a moot point for me. Just wait and see. Whoever performs well enough once they debut, then assess from there as to whether or not they're worth bringing in as a worthy cash cow. If you're in need of downgrading to someone, even then, I'd probably be looking at, what's his name? Fahey, I think his name is. Fahey. There he is, Josh Fahey. He's a defensive midfielder. I think he had about 37 disposal on the weekend again. High 30s the week before. He's banging down the door at the Giants. So if anyone's going to get a game, it'll probably be this bloke. But again, wait until they play their first game if you can. Otherwise, you kind of slim pickings anyway. I'd be going for Samson Ryan at the very least. And then maybe Jacob Van Ruin if you can fit him in, if you feel a little bit more confident in him than what I do. But it's a little bit shaky for me. But that's pretty much it. That's my team. That's how it could look heading into round 5. That's the bank that I'll have heading into next week as well. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are. Always keen as well to hear some feedback. Last week as well, there was a few comments, which is good to see. I like hearing different opinions and ideas on the way things could play out, or your own thoughts. And there's a few comments, questions here as well, and we'll get back to you as well, as you can see here. So, Dan wasn't a massive fan of getting rid of Doc. It's turned out all right, I think. And then a few people have asked questions. So if you have any questions as well, a bit of inception here. Who's that bloke? But if you have any questions, comments, that sort of thing, let me know in the comments below. And if you can, if you like this video, don't be afraid to like, subscribe. As I said, we want to hit the 1K subscriber mark as quick as possible. So all you need to do is literally, we're begging of you, just that one little bit of clicking of the mouse by subscribing, and helps us immensely. So thanks in advance. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Send your questions down below, and we'll catch you next week to do it all again in Damo's Team Talk, and to catch you guys and girls in our usual weekly podcast/vodcast. And as we always say, we'll catch you next week. Same time, same place. We'll see you then. Thanks for tuning in.